everybody. This is Cory Noble with Cola Banker Advantage in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I am excited to talk to you guys today and be on this platform in front of all these hardworking North Carolina realtors. I am going to talk to you guys today about the pre-list process and how to get a seller market ready. I had to change locations because my computer was not working well, so I'm in the Success Center, so we may have some pop-ins. So if somebody pops in, we'll just make them part of the broadcast. Hey, Edward, my first viewer. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've had my license since 2010, and I consider myself a pre-list expert because I have owned and operated my own move-out cleaning business for several years. And we did move-outs only full-time, so I've cleaned hundreds of properties. I am ruined for life. I see dirt everywhere I go, so I have like a keen eye for detail. I also have a certification in professional staging, so I've helped people stage. I've done some professional organizing. I've helped other agents get their sellers ready for the market. So I have a whole lot of knowledge. This is definitely my strong suit, and I have a particular way that I do it. We all know that the pre-list process can suck the life out of you as an agent. So my goal is to help you guys kind of be a little bit more efficient with that and empower your clients to take these actions on their own so you can best serve them and best serve them as a client and also your time. So I broke this down into 3 areas that I feel are kind of the most important. So the first one being your first contact with your seller. The second point I'm going to talk about is, I lost my place already, seller scenarios. So seller scenarios are like different situations that we find ourselves in. Hey, Tara. Then we've got, I'm going to share some tips and tricks of the trade that I think will help you guys. And then we'll open it up to some questions. So when we talk about your first contact with a seller, most likely you're going to have that conversation on the phone. And so a lot of times people will, they'll call you, get the lead. However you get the lead, usually your first contact with that person, true contact with that person is over the phone. So this is your first opportunity to build their trust, and this is your first opportunity to gather information. So I usually just say, hey, I'm Cory Noble. How are you? Tell me about yourself, tell me about your family, and tell me about what you're trying to do and how I can help you. So usually they just start giving you all this information. So this is your opportunity to take notes, and they're going to tell you things probably that you haven't even asked yet, like we know our house needs work, or we're ready to list, or we're in a hurry, or we have orders. I know everybody, in Fayetteville knows that term. So if you're in the Fayetteville market, your clients are telling you all the time, we have orders, we're leaving, we have to sell our house right now. So that's what we commonly hear from our sellers. And the Fayetteville market's a little bit different than the rest of North Carolina. So I think this will be very useful for our local realtors. So you've got their opportunity. Your goal of this first conversation with them is to get an appointment. So you want to get the listing appointment because you want a face-to-face with that person. You can get to know them. Some people like to talk on the phone and some people do not. So you may or may not be able to get a lot of information. I have a whole pre-list interview, and sometimes I can get that whole interview filled out over the phone. But sometimes it's a little too much business and people don't like that. So if you're turning them off and you're insisting that you're turning them off, just get to know them and be yourself and get the appointment, because you want the appointment so you can go to the house and you can see what you're dealing with and, get to know them and see how you can best serve them. So your next opportunity to gather information is going to be at the property. So once you've got that appointment, good for you, because you're like, yes, this is my first success. I've already got the appointment. So you're going to go to the house, meet with them. What's a good time for you to meet Mr. and Mrs. Seller? And the first thing you're going to do is kind of evaluate things from the curb. So the first thing when you pull up, you should already be paying attention. What kind of condition is the exterior of the house in? What kind of curb appeal do they have? And you haven't even met them. They don't know you're checking things out, so you can just kind of be gathering some information. And when you get in the front door, as soon as I introduce myself and meet spouse or kids or pets or whatever, and everybody feels like we've made a little small talk, I usually say right away, can you show me around the house? And that way I can take some notes and then we can sit down and discuss it. So I go straight to the show me the house, because if I don't see the house, I don't know how to present numbers to this person, because I don't know what kind of condition the house is in. And usually people are like, absolutely, but just remember, that you want to keep it very casual and you want to be very respectful, because It's very personal to let someone into your bedroom and into your bathroom, and these are places that people don't really go. You know, this person has guests, and now they've just met you, and you're asking to see every nook and cranny of their house. So just understand, you know, how they would be feeling, and just keep it very comfortable. You know, ask them before you open doors, and just let them lead you around the house, and they will tell you so much information. They'll tell you things they've updated. They'll tell you things that, you know, they don't like about their house. They'll tell you things they do like about their house. And so these are all things you're writing down. And as well as things that need to be improved. They'll tell you, we know this room needs to be painted. You know, we probably need to move this, and this room is really bad. Like, don't judge us based on this room. And so your goal is to just kind of absorb that information, and don't make any faces. Don't like, oh my gosh, what's this room about? You know, just kind of laugh and say, you know, I understand, I'm a person too, I'm a human being, I have a family, you know, my house is a mess sometimes, so it is what it is. But the goal is to help them understand that this is just the first step in their process. Occasionally you'll walk into a house that's immaculate, and that's awesome, and you're wowed. But more often than not, you're going to have a lot of messes. You know, you're going to deal with a lot of people that need to do a lot of work, and it's your job to do this in a tactful way. I think that's the hardest part about being a realtor, is like, you want to win their business, but you also know that you cannot list this house in this condition. So, you know, what I learned from staging was always compliment the seller. You have to understand that this seller, this is their pride and joy. This is not a product to them at this point. This is their home. This is where they've raised their kids. This is where they've had Christmas mornings and family dinners. So, they're proud of the little bit of improvements they've made to their house. So you need to compliment them on that. So be paying attention for things like that. And then it's usually the yard and something they've built. They're just like, I built this with my own hands. And you're like, okay, that's really awesome, you know. So just keep in mind that, you know, that you're dealing with the human and not so much the house at this point. Because if you can win them over and you can win the relationship, then you will win the listing. So oftentimes, especially here in Fayetteville, we have vacant listings. So if you get a vacant listing, meaning the seller's already gone, they call you and they say, Cory, my house is been on the rental market for 4 years. I need to sell it. I need somebody to look at it. I don't know what to do. I'm in Oklahoma. That's your opportunity right there to say, okay, I can help you. I can coordinate with your property manager, call the property manager, introduce yourself, see how you can coordinate picking up keys so you can go see that house, and then go take a look. So the beauty of a vacant house, honestly, I like looking at vacant houses because I can just be straight facts. I'm not trying to win the client over anymore, and I can make faces, and I can I can go, oh my goodness, what's happened in this room? So you know, you can go out and you're just literally taking notes. This is the kind of thing I do for other agents more often, is I go out and make a checklist for them. So if the house is vacant, it's awesome. You can just focus on the property, make all the notes. I'm literally looking at everything from the curb, the mailbox, the house numbers, the entryway, the front door. I'm looking at condition. I'm looking at repairs. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to know all repairs, but I'm going to see, if I see something that's visible to me, I'm going to write it down. And so, you know, does the carpet need replaced? Does the paint need to be done? Is the house dirty? Was it clean? I mean, all these things are very, very important. Even down to light bulbs. Do they need light bulbs? Do they need air filters? You're going to make this nice long list of things, and you are going to be able to present this to this seller. So you've already done, right now, if you've done this, you've already done more than 90% of realtors out here. The reason I know that is because I get hired all the time because I'm like the person's second realtor. They were not happy with their first realtor because their realtor did not do these things. So I'm telling you, you can be ahead of the game if you're willing to put in a little bit more effort than your counterparts and go out and spend this time. No, you're not getting paid, but you are learning, or you're earning, you're earning this person's trust and this person's business. I saw a heart go up, so I got all distracted. Anyway, so, you know, go out there and make this list. And at this point, you may or may not know if this person can afford to do anything. pre-list, but it doesn't matter because you need this list. When you win this listing and this person says, all right, Cory, we've got $5,000 or we've got $10,000, you're going to know how to direct them to spend this money. And if they say they have no money and they want to list anyway, when the buyers come along and give them this negative feedback, you've already warned them in advance that this carpet is going to be an issue for a buyer. And it's not an I told you so thing. You're just letting them know. You're educating them on the facts of your particular market. This is important. This is what people are going to want to see. So if you can't do these things, I'm just making you aware that it's going to be an issue. So now you look like the professional. You look like the expert. You look like the superstar. And down the road, they may come to terms and they might want to help you do these things. So that's awesome. Hey, Katie. That pretty much is like your first steps. You've got your pre-list interview, and then you've got your property evaluation. So those make up the meat of the beginning of your work. And you have this awesome checklist that you can share, whether it's, I just screenshotted one the other day. You can screenshot it. If it's a hot mess and your notes are all over the place, take the time to type it out. People really love that you are going to take the time. They don't know what to do. They're looking for you to tell them what to do. So don't hesitate to tell them everything they need to do. And I always just, start off with some compliments. When you send that email, say, hey, you've got great curb appeal. You're in a great neighborhood. You have a great floor plan, but these are the things that I feel that you need to do. So don't just go into this negative mode of like, here's your laundry list of things to do. Give them a compliment and make them feel like they have something to offer the market, and then tell them what they need to do. So now I'm going to talk about some different seller situations that we get into. I think these are kind of funny because if you've not experienced this, you will. I promise you. Everyone fits in one of these three categories, in my opinion. You have the seller that won't spend money. They come to you and they say, I'm ready to list my house, Cory. I want you to sell it for me. I've always wanted to hire you as my realtor, and now we're ready. Okay, but I'm telling you, we're not spending any money. We are not going to spend any money. And you go, oh, fantastic. This is going to be great. So, again, you're trying to win the business, so don't freak out. This person will probably come to their senses down the road, but at right this moment, over the phone or wherever you have this first contact, is not the time to tell them that's not going to work. Wait till you see the house. The house may not need work. So don't be surprised, hey, Megan, you might get out there and realize they don't need to do work, but make sure they understand that they're going to have to do repairs on the appraisal. So they're not like in this mindset of, I'm not doing anything. Usually they get on board and they're willing to do that. You've got the seller. This is the second group of people. You've got the seller that can't spend money but has equity. I have one of those right now. I don't typically take a listing that is not ready for the market and my seller is not willing to do anything, but in this situation, these people are not able. So if you have a seller that is not able to do anything up front but has some equity, so they're probably going to net something, you can advertise some of those upgrades in the notes. So that's what I'm going to do with these people. I understand where they're coming from. They're not going to be able to do this, but they want to sell their house. They've been very loyal to me for a year and a half. So we're just going to put the house on the market with the best we can and try to negotiate these things out with the buyer. So there's a different, that's a different angle. Then you've got the seller who has no money and no equity. And it happens all the time, especially with our quick turnaround here in Fayetteville. And unfortunately, not everyone is going to be in a position to sell. It doesn't mean that they can't sell down the road. It just means that right now they need to make that decision. Maybe they can bring money to the table, maybe they can't. But if you've got somebody that will not, hey Robin, if you've got somebody that will not spend money up front and doesn't have any money to net, you need to ask those hard questions. How are you going to pay for this then? Because this money is not going to fall from the sky. So just make sure you're being really forward and honest, and then leave the decision up to them. I have a couple best case, worst case, just personal experience, and maybe you guys have had these, but these are equations that I present to my sellers so they can see, like, this is firsthand experience, this is real life, this is not something I made up. You've got your worst case scenario where people will not do anything. If you have this person, and I would suggest adding up their mortgage. This is the people who have money and they just say, oh, my house is fine, we want to see how it goes. We know how it's going to go. It's not going to go well. So don't waste your time. Try to get them on board and present this scenario. Add up their mortgage. How much is your mortgage? $1,300 a month, $1,500 a month. Multiply that by 6. Add up all your utilities and all your yard care, and take a $10,000 hit on the listing on the sales price down the road, and you're going to look at like 20 grand. So do you want to lose 20 grand, or do you want to spend 5 grand on the front end? Hey, Alan, you want to spend 5 grand on the front end and get the transaction started. So, you know, I've had that client. And guess what? They needed to paint. They didn't want to paint. At the end of 5 months, they hadn't sold, and they painted, and we got an offer immediately. So were they thrilled with me? No, they weren't. They weren't happy because they felt like, you know, it was my responsibility, and part of it was, and part of it was theirs. So if you're not willing to do anything, you know, it makes our job hard. So I'm just telling you, be as strict as you can up front. Then you have the best case scenario, people that do all the things they're supposed to do. I've had this client also. They did everything I told them to do. I'm telling you, when I saw this listing, I was concerned, very concerned. They needed outside work. They needed inside work. They needed floors redone. They needed windows redone. They needed, I mean, this house was a mess. This house got a complete facelift. I listed it high. We got a full price offer on the first showing. So I made them money. Them spending money made them money. So, you know, make sure your sellers understand that that little bit of money that they spend up front could save them, or could make them money, not just save them money, but actually make them money. So if you want to sell for top dollar, these are the things that you need to do up front. So those are a little bit of, I mean, we've all been in those situations, but just make sure your sellers understand that you're not just making these things up. You don't want to make their life difficult. You don't want them to have a hard pre-list. But the fact is that if they don't do the right things on the pre-list side, they're not going to sell. So explain to them in great detail how much that's actually going to cost them to sit on the market. And you as a realtor, it's going to cost you time. So you're working for free. So how long do you want to work for free? So sometimes, you know, when we put our client first, it's great, but we also have to realize that we're running a business here. We're not just out here doing volunteer work, is what I call it. So now I'm going to share some tips and tricks. These are things that I tell my sellers, things that I've learned along the way. Every single person that I have staged for, cleaned for, listed has too much stuff. Every single one of you that has that's watching probably has too much stuff. Like, I've never seen a person not have enough stuff. Okay, so pack it up, pack your stuff. You're moving. I tell people you're moving, right? You're moving. So start packing up your stuff, put your stuff in boxes. I wouldn't care if you have 40 boxes stacked in the garage. That looks fantastic to a buyer, because when a buyer comes through and sees that, they go, oh, these people have already started packing up. This is great because we want to move in 30 days. When you have a cluttered house, the buyer goes, ooh, they look at you as their realtor and says, how long will it take them to get out of here? So you need to pack up. So start packing up. Get a pod. Put a pod in the driveway. I tell people, get a pod. Start putting things in there. You need to downsize everything, because less is more. Less is more. Have your seller take pictures. This is probably the most powerful thing that I've ever read. I read it online in an article that, you know, is telling people how to get ready for the market. Have your seller stand back and take photos with their phone. Don't wait till you hire a professional photographer to find out that your pictures look like crap. They have too many things. They don't have one focal point. They have 10 focal points. And they're telling you, Cory, I just think our house is ready, you know. I'm like, okay, take photos, your own pictures, and look at it. And then they go, ooh, that looks bad. And I go, you know, if you saw these pictures online, would you buy this house? Would you want to see this house? Probably not. So it's funny how buyers are always HGTV and they want all these great things, and they love everything, but sellers, they don't ever mention HGTV because they know how expensive that's going to be. So they get amnesia when they're sellers. So it's kind of funny. So you have to really get your sellers to think like a buyer. It's super important. Work on lighting. I cannot say this enough. I cannot tell you how many times I've shown a house or gone to stage a house, and there's 6 vanity lights. There's bulbs, 6 of them, and 5 of them are out. You know, there's no lights in the closet. There's no, like, our light bulb's like a hard thing because you're telling the buyer that you're lazy. That's what you're doing. Same with air filters. If your air filter is filthy and you have never cleaned your air intake, you're lazy. And buyers are like, ooh, you know, they're judging you right now, and they're telling themselves, I wonder if they've done any other maintenance. You know, have they done any maintenance at all? So you really need to think about these little things. Home ownership, can be as simple as light bulbs, air filters. Clean your house, clean, clean, clean. Having owned a business, cleaning business, I cannot tell you how important it is to clean. Not just kind of clean, spotless clean, shiny clean, corners clean, light fixtures clean, everything, baseboards. I'm telling you, if you have a clean house, it speaks to maintenance. When people come through, they go, oh, you can tell these people really clean, they really took care of this house. Okay, so you need to understand, you have to impress the buyers. Everyone can afford to clean. If you can't afford a cleaner, don't tell me you can't afford to clean, because a bucket of water and some soap is, you could be surprised what you could do. And that's what I used to tell people when I would quote a cleaning job and they'd say we can't afford it. I'd say, well, you better get Bobby and Susie and get them some rags, some soap and water, and get them down there and start cleaning up. So just really, really, really pay attention to those details. If you don't know how to do all these things, or you feel like this is not your strong suit, hire somebody. Agents hire me. I'm sure there's someone in your market that can help you. And be honest with your client. Just say, you know, I actually have someone who helps me. I partner with someone who helps me with my pre-list process, because you know, I want you guys to feel empowered by this. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with hiring someone. It's just like you would hire a painter. I wouldn't go out there and take care of the yard myself. You know, so if you don't feel like this is your strong suit, by all means, spend a little bit of money, or have your seller spend a little bit of money. And it will save them thousands of dollars. If you spend $300 having an expert come in and tell you what to do, and you make 10 grand, that is good math. That is excellent math. So, you know, let them know in advance that this is a lot of work, and you understand that, and you're not trying to make them miserable. But this is very, very important for you to sell. You can recoup your money if you do all these things and you list and you sell. Your seller will be extremely happy with you, and you will be a superstar. So 6 months of heartache. I have 2 people right now. One I've been working with for a year, and the other person I've been working with for 6 months. But you know what? That house is going to sell when we list. And it makes me look good. It makes them happy. Everybody has done what they're supposed to do. So just understand that, you know, make sure your sellers understand that you're not trying to make them miserable, and you know that this is expensive and it's important, but it will work. It will work to their advantage. So just to recap a little bit, if I had to give you guys a takeaway from all of this, everything that I've said, I think the most important thing that I want you to understand is that pre-list really does pay off. It matters. Again, I've had people that I've worked for that their agent did not help them. So you can step in and be that shining star for them, and they will love you forever if you get their house sold. Not just buying is fun, but you know, selling can be fun too, because you're helping that person move on to their next chapter. And if you are literally their only contact here in the Fayetteville market or wherever you are, and they've moved on, they're remarried, or they're stationed elsewhere, and you can help them, they will think so highly of you. They will send you referrals. I've had people write wonderful reviews about me. And again, this was after they already had a realtor. So, you know, make sure that you tell them that, you know, you're here for them, you're here to help them, you're here to serve them. And the pre-list process really does pay off. The other thing I would say, if there's anything I could tell you when you're working with the occupied listing, less. Get rid of things, get rid of things, get rid of things. If you learn nothing else, just tell them, you know, you need to get rid of some things, and you need to clean. There's no excuse. I think, you know, cleaning and painting can make a world of difference in a house, and those are probably the 2 most least expensive things you can do. So when a person doesn't have money, I totally understand, but but there's a lot of things that they can do. So just help them. You know, you got to work on their budget, and you got to work on their timeline, but there's things for everybody. I think that's it. So if you guys have questions, I see somebody has technical difficulties, but if you guys have questions, I'll be sitting here for a few minutes answering questions. So I hope you enjoyed. I did. Let's see. Oh, Tony's on here. Thanks, Rosie. I wonder if I should just, like, I've talked to myself a lot in the last couple of days. I could just sit here and talk to myself if no one has questions. Very cool. Very fun. pre-list. I'm telling you, I have 5 people right now that I'm having pre-list. They're making me crazy. They call, you know, one dude, I talked to him. I talked to him 6 times on Tuesday. We talk every day. We talk pretty much every day, but I know that when he sells his house, it's gonna be great. But you know, you work and you work and you work so hard, and it's like, where are these people? Like, you know, when are they gonna be ready to list? I had all these people on my board in January that were ready to list, and now it's May, and I am now officially listing them. So, you know, it's a process. Just understand that it's a process. And oh, here's a little tidbit that I had forgotten about. That I've learned the hard way. If a contractor tells you that, you know, they have 2 weeks of work, plan for a month. If they say it's a month, plan for 2 months. And I tell my clients that because it's easier to set their expectations. Weather happens, supplies happen, people get sick, things change. So just help them understand that, you know, there's going to be delays in the process, but you will get to that finish line, and it'll be worth it. I don't think anybody has questions. This is not my laptop, so I'm having a hard time like navigating around. This is way better than my laptop, actually. Let's chat about allowances versus doing the work, which is better. Rosemary says, let's chat about allowances versus doing the work, which is better in tight timelines and budget. Well, I mean, personally, I always want the listing ready before I list it. I always want the pre-list work done because, quite frankly, I mean, I understand timelines, and sometimes you have to throw something on the market, but I'm really against it, and I really caution my clients, because if you do that and you don't get a contract, you just cost yourself a month right there anyway. So you could have done the work. So I would prefer allowances. To me, probably going to be some realtors that say otherwise, but my first listing had an allowance on it. It had pink carpet. I called it the pink carpet house. A lot of people have heard me talk about that house, but everyone knew it as the pink carpet house because it had been listed with another realtor prior to me. So I didn't do anything. We put an allowance, a carpet allowance on the property, didn't sell, didn't sell, didn't sell, didn't sell. I kid you not, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. This house is like immaculate. This house was spotless. It was immaculate. It just had pink carpet. But an allowance didn't matter. We replaced the carpet, and it sold on the first showing after. So people are not good at visualizing. People are not good at seeing end results. They see what they see. They see your ugly furniture. They see your ugly carpet. They see your scuffs on the wall. And I mean, allowances are great. I've even told people like, oh, you get to pick your own carpet, you get to pick your own paint. People don't care. They don't want to do the work. They want to move into a move-in ready house. And I think that's every market. I think that is just society. Everybody wants the best. In our market, people want an old house that looks brand new. Everybody wants a house that looks brand new. So, you know, if you have to do allowances, that's fine, but that's their last resort, in my opinion. I caution my clients away from it. I try to get them to spend the money up front and get it sold ASAP, and not have to worry about it. And then you've got some lenders that won't let you do the allowances. So, just depends. I hope that answers your question. We're sitting here looking at myself. I just like tell a nursery rhyme, or actually I've been preparing for this yesterday and all day today. I've been preparing, even though I know what I'm talking about, but I wanted to make sense. So I hope it made sense. And definitely pre-list pays off. And I know a lot of people struggle with it because a lot of people come to me for help and they don't know what to do. And so it's definitely, I think it's overlooked in training. It's overlooked in education. They teach us to seek out listings, which is awesome, but you often get a listing that is a mess. It is a mess up and down, and you don't know, especially when you're new in this business, you don't know what to do. You're just like, oh my gosh. So it can be Hey, Alice. Well, I don't think, if I don't see any more questions in the next few minutes, I think I'm going to hop off. I don't know my time limit. That's the one thing I'm not 100% sure of, so we'll see. It's fun to see realtors from other markets on here. Very cool. Fayetteville market is like a bubble, like a little, it's a different bubble down here. I just saw the wow face. Hopefully that's a good wow, not a bad wow. Check back later, see if anyone who washes. Okay. Awesome. All right, guys. I guess I'm going to hop off, but I will definitely tune back in later and see if anybody has questions. I know everybody's super busy and out, and thank you, Coldwell Banker Advantage family, for those of you that hopped on to watch live. That was fun because you don't have any viewers. Kind of like pointless to be live. Anyway, thanks, guys. Take care.